Good
Yes.
morning, ma'am, and good morning, all. Today, as you can see on the board, we are about to start Chapter 7 revision. So, I have made a small PPT so that we can clear more about this chapter. Chapter 7 Conservation of Plants and Animals. The aim of this chapter is to know about some endangered animals, endangered species, deforestation, reforestation, and where the animals are kept. Deforestation. Deforestation means the clearing of forest. This means deforestation means that clearing of forest means cutting of trees down. And deforestation generally occurs because to make space to build something on the particular space. Reforestation. Reforestation means the growing of forest. This is a phenomena in which it keeps the oxygen balance. Deforestation, if the deforestation occurs a lot, this can cause oxygen decreasation. So the reforestation can solve the problem for that. Now we are going to talk about sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary. Areas where animals are protected from any disturbance to them and their habitat. This means that these are the particular areas where animals get protection. The animals which are about to extinct gets protection in this area. These are some examples of animals living in wildlife sanctuaries. National park, areas where animals have freedom to use the resources. National park, this is similar to wildlife sanctuaries. This also have the same things like wildlife sanctuaries have. In this area, the animals that are living there have their particular resources and they can use it anytime. They are free.
Unmute.
Good morning, everybody. So today I'm going to present a short clip learning on front of you. My topic is Chapter 7, Conservation of Plants and Animals. I'm going to present this with my friend Pratyaksha. Deforestation and its causes. We know that deforestation means the clearing of forest and using that land for various purposes. Trees and forests are cut for various purposes like for procuring land for cultivation, building houses and factories, making furniture or using the wood as a fuel. This is a pic of deforestation. Now Pratiksha will explain you that what is consequences of deforestation.
Consequences of deforestation can lead to drought or flood. The increased temperature on Earth disturbs the water cycle and may reduce rainfall. This can cause drought, and deforestation also lead to decrease in water holding capacity of the soil. Surface into ground is reduces, so there are floods.
Some protected areas. Wildlife sanctuary, area where animals are protected from any disturbance to them and their habitat. National park, areas reserved for wildlife where they can freely use the habitat and natural resources.
Is places made for conservation of plants and animals and ecosystem. Topics to be covered: Biosphere Reserve, National Park, Wildlife Sanctuaries, and Ecosystem.
Now, I will tell you about Biosphere Reserve. Biosphere reserves are the large areas made for the conservation and are the large area and made for the conservation of biodiversity and protected lands for conservation of wildlife, plants and animals and also for tribals. There are total 18 biosphere reserves in India. Some examples of biosphere reserves in India are Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve, and Panchmadi Biosphere Reserve, and many more. Our most common biosphere reserve in India is Panchmadi Biosphere Reserve. It is located in Madhya Pradesh. It consists of one national park named Satpura and two wildlife sanctuaries named Bori and Panchmadi. The most famous Ayurvedic medicine in it is Neemgar. The there is a small reservoir in it named Tava Reservoir. Also, for rest purposes, two small houses are made named Churn and Panapani.
Now I am going to tell you about National Park. National Park is an area reserved for wildlife where they can freely use their habitats and natural resources. National Park preserve flora, fauna, landscape and historic objects. Some of the national parks are Ranthambore National Park, Jim Corbett National Park, Gir National Park and Satpura National Park. As you all know that the Satpura National Park is the first reserve forest of India. The finest Indian teak is found in this forest.
Now, I will tell you the difference between Biosphere Reserve and National Park. Biosphere reserves are the large areas made for the biodiversity, as I told you, and national parks are made for the protection of certain kind of animals. Biosphere reserves contain many types of animals in one park, and national parks commonly have only one kind of animals. These both are open for tourism.
Project Tiger. Project Tiger was launched by the government to protect the tigers in the country. The objective of this project was to ensure the survival and maintenance of the tiger population in the country.
Now I will tell you about wildlife sanctuaries. Wildlife sanctuary provide protection and suitable living condition to wild animals. People living in wildlife sanctuaries are allowed to do certain activities such as grazing by their livestock, collecting medical plants, firewood, etc. Some of the animals that live in wildlife sanctuaries are frog, wild cat, crocodile, elephant, and etc. Now I will tell you about difference between zoo and wildlife sanctuaries. Zoo is an area where animals are kept for public exhibitions, but wildlife sanctuaries are the area where wild animals are protected in their natural habitats.
Today, I am going to. Good morning, everyone, and respected ma'am. Today, I am going to represent a short PPT with explanation in this session. So let's start. First of all, we are talking about deforestation. Cutting down forest trees over a wide area called deforestation. The main causes of deforestation are droughts, forest fires, climate changes, floods, etc. Now, consequences of deforestation: increase in temperature and global warming, soil erosion, increase in a population, and disturb the balance in nature. Now, we will talk about droughts. The increase in the temperature on the earth disturb the water cycle and may reduce rainfall. These called droughts. Now, desertification. What is desertification? Desertification refers to process of a fertile land becoming unproductive. It means that land struggle to grow any type of vegetation due to the lack of minerals and nutrition in soil. Now, let's talk about the conservation of forest and wildlife sanctuary. The conservation of forest and wildlife sanctuaries are Biosphere Reserve, National Park, and Wildlife Sanctuary. First, we discuss Biosphere Reserve. Biosphere Reserve are the protected areas meant for conservation of plants and animal and traditional life for tribals living there.
Part. Wildlife sanctuary. The killing or capturing animal in general is strictly prohibited and punishable by law in such places. Wildlife sanctuary like reserve forest provided protection and sustainable living conditions to wild animals. He also tells that people living in wildlife sanctuaries are allowed to be certain activities such as grazing by their livestock, collecting medical plants or firewood, etc. Some of the treatment wild animals like black buck, white-eyed buck, golden cat, etc. are protected and preserved in our wildlife sanctuaries.
We'll learn about flora and fauna. First,
Continue,
we will
continue.
talk about flora. Flora comes from the Latin name of flora, the goddess of plants, flower, and fertile in Roman mythology. Flora is a flora is a plant life occurring in a particular region on time, generally the natural occurring on indigenous native plant life. Human beings are completely depends upon plant, directly or indirectly. Plant provide food, clothes, fuel, shelter, and many other necessary of life. Humankind depends on crops such as wheat and corn, maize is observably, but without grass and grain. The livestock that provide people with food and other animal products could not survive either. Example of flora are plants. Now we will talk about fauna.
Chapter 7 Conservation of Plants and Animals. Deforestation. It is the clearing of forests and using that land for other purposes like for industrial setup or making buildings for rehabilitation. It may be caused by procuring land for cultivation, building houses and factories, making furniture using wood as fuel, and natural causes such as forest fires and droughts. Some of its effects are that it causes increase of atmospheric temperature due to the increase in concentration of carbon dioxide leading to global warming, severe droughts and floods.
For many purposes like building houses and factories, cultivation. These affect in our climate changes. And now we learn about conservation of forest and wildlife. To protect the flora and fauna and their habitat, protected area called sanctuaries, national parks. There are many things to protect the animals like sanctuaries, national park, biosphere reserves, and first of all, wildlife sanctuaries. The wildlife sanctuaries are the area which animals can protect from any disturbance to their habitat. Then the first wildlife sanctuary in India was Priyar Wildlife Sanctuary of Kerala. A great variety of Good morning, myself Surbi Sani. Today I am telling about deforestation. A great variety of plants and animals exist on earth. They are essential for the well-being and survival of mankind. Today, a major threat of survival of these organisms is deforestation. We know that deforestation means clearing of forest. Some advantage and disadvantage of deforestation. Advantage: procuring land for cultivation, building houses and factories. Disadvantages: forest fire and severe droughts. Now I am telling about drought. A drought is a period of time when an area or region experiences below normal precipitation. The word is often used in the phase drought condition, referring to very dry condition resulting from a lack of rainfall. Thank you.